There's a special kind of pain when the people who raised you don't show up for your biggest moment, but there's a deeper kind of pain when you find out they never planned to. And the screenshots? They revealed everything they tried to hide. By the time my parents saw me at graduation, their faces turned paper white. My name is Eveline Carter, and I learned the truth about my parents on the day I should have felt most proud. Graduation day. A day I spent 4 years dreaming about. 4 years grinding through double shifts, late-night study sessions, and doing everything I could to survive without the financial support my sister received effortlessly. Because in my family, everything went to my sister, Melanie. The golden girl. The future doctor. The one who deserved investment. And me, I was the independent one, which was just their polite way of calling me. The one they didn't want to spend money on. They paid for her tuition, rent, books, supplies, everything. And me, I took loans, worked back-to-back shifts, skipped meals, pulled all-nighters after work. Still, I believed that on graduation day they would show up, because they promised. 3 times, my mom had said on the phone, "Sweetheart, we wouldn't miss it for the world. We're so proud of you." My dad had chimed in, talking about getting a bouquet, dressing up, taking pictures. I believed every word. The ceremony started at 10 a.m. My parents left the house at 6 a.m. to beat traffic. At 9:45, the seats reserved for them were empty. At 10 still empty. At 10:15, when I walked across the stage, smiling for the camera, clutching the diploma I fought tooth and nail for, those seats were still empty. Melanie wasn't there either. I walked off stage, blinking back tears that I tried to hide behind a smile. My best friend Lena hugged me and said, "I'm sure they're on their way. Maybe parking is crazy." I nodded, lying through my teeth. Yeah, probably. Inside, something was breaking. By noon, when everyone else took photos with their families, mine was still stuck in traffic. At 12:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Mom, sweetheart, something came up. We're exhausted. We had to take a small break. We'll call you later. Congratulations." A break? On my graduation day? I wasn't stupid, but I swallowed it, texted okay, and walked through crowds of laughing families while I stood alone. Lena took pictures with me. She bought me a cupcake. She made jokes to keep me smiling, but inside, I felt abandoned. I went home early, collapsed on my bed, cried silently because even my exhaustion was tired. Around 4 p.m., my phone dinged. A message from my cousin, Harper. It was a screenshot. Then another. And another. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then my heart stopped. My parents hadn't been exhausted. They hadn't taken a break. They were at a beach resort, posting selfies, cocktails, poolside photos, and captions like, "Finally some peace. Much needed family relaxation. A break from responsibilities. Enjoying time with our real priorities. Real priorities." And in one picture, Melanie was there too, smiling, holding a drink. Her caption, "Celebrating early with the people who matter most." I stared at my phone, numb, shaking, cold. They didn't miss my graduation by accident. They missed it on purpose. They had chosen a beach trip over my once-in-a-lifetime moment. Harper messaged, "Aveline, I thought they were with you. Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I didn't trust my voice. Didn't trust myself not to scream, or break, or explode. At 6 p.m., my mom finally called. I let it ring. She texted, "We'll stop by tomorrow. We didn't want you to feel pressured with photos." Pressured? The lies were getting worse. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every sacrifice I had made. Every time I told myself my parents loved me equally. Every small lie I forced myself to swallow. The next morning, they showed up at my apartment, smiling like nothing had happened. "Sweetheart, sorry we missed your big day," Mom said, holding a cheap bouquet from the gas station. Dad added, "We needed to rest. We were burnt out. You know how life gets?" I looked right into their eyes. "How was the resort?" Their smiles froze. Mom blinked. Dad's face tightened. "What resort?" I walked to my kitchen counter, pulled up the screenshots, and slid the phone across the table. Mom's jaw dropped. Dad looked like someone had pulled the floor from under him. And I said calmly, "You didn't just skip my graduation. You lied. And then you celebrated without me." Mom stammered, "Aveline, we can explain." "No," I cut her off. "I've spent my whole life accepting your excuses." Not today. For the first time in my life, my parents looked guilty, truly guilty. But the story didn't end there. Not even close. Because 1 week later, they showed up again. Not with flowers. Not with apologies. Not with effort. They showed up with a request that made my blood boil. A request that proved everything. A request that tore the last thread holding our relationship together. A request that pushed me from hurt to anger, to power. And when I said no, They didn't just get angry. They didn't just shame me. They didn't just guilt trip me. They did something worse, something unforgivable, something that changed everything forever. They tried to ruin me. That sentence kept echoing in my head the moment. I opened the door and saw my parents standing there again a week later. This time they weren't smiling. They weren't pretending. They were tense, almost desperate. My dad cleared his throat first. Evelyn, we need to talk. It's important. I didn't invite them in, but they pushed past me anyway and sat down like they still owned authority over my life. My mom adjusted her purse and said the sentence that made my hands freeze. We need $2,400 immediately. I blinked, slowly, as if my brain needed extra time to process such audacity. For what? I asked flatly. Dad sighed. Groceries, bills, a few repairs, and your sister's upcoming semester. My jaw tightened. There it was. The truth, unfiltered. I had known my parents favored Melanie, but now they weren't even pretending. I laughed, quiet, bitter, exhausted. You skipped my graduation to sit at a resort. And now you want my money? Mom snapped. Don't use that tone with us. Families help each other. I stared dead into her eyes. You didn't help me. A beat of silence. When I needed tuition, nothing. When I needed rent, nothing. When I had to work 2 jobs, nothing. When I begged for support, Dad cut me off sharply. You've always been the independent one. We didn't think you needed anything. There it was again. The sugar-coated cruelty. I crossed my arms. So now that Melanie needs something, suddenly I'm responsible? Mom scoffed. She's studying to be a doctor, Aveline. Her success benefits the whole family. And mine doesn't? My voice cracked, despite my attempt to stay calm. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Stop overreacting. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. Urgent? A week earlier, they were sipping cocktails, toasting to real priorities. I exhaled slowly. I'm not giving you money. Mom's eyes widened, like I had committed a crime. Excuse me? You heard me. I'm not paying a single dollar toward Melanie's life ever again. Silence thickened the air. Dad leaned forward, jaw clenched, veins visible in his forehead. You're being selfish. I shook my head. No, I'm being done. Mom stood abruptly, pointing a trembling finger at me. If you don't help your own family, then you can't expect us to help you in the future. I let out a cold laugh. You've never helped me in the past. That line hit them harder than anything. Their faces stiffened, eyes narrowing like they'd been exposed again. Finally, I walked to the door and held it open. I think you should go, Mom muttered. You'll regret this. Dad glared. We'll see about that. And they left. Or at least, I thought they did. The call that changed everything. 2 hours later, I heard a knock again. It wasn't calm. It was aggressive. Then another knock. Harder. Then, bang, bang, bang. My stomach dropped. I approached the door cautiously, looked through the peephole. My parents were back. And with them, a police officer. My heart felt like it stopped. I opened the door only halfway. The officer cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable but professional. Ma'am, we received a report from your parents. They stated you threatened them, verbally abused them, and refused to return money you owe them. My mouth fell open. What? That's a lie. My mom immediately burst into fake tears. Officer, she screamed at us. Threatened to kick us out, and she's been taking our money for months. I stood there, speechless. The officer looked unsure. He could tell something was wrong. Ma'am, do you owe them money? No. Dad growled. Don't lie in front of an officer. Mom wailed louder. She's unstable. She needs help. We don't feel safe. I felt something in me snap. For my entire life, I forgave them. Shrunk myself. Allowed myself to be the invisible child. But today, not anymore. I looked directly at the officer. Would you like to see proof that they're lying? The officer nodded. I opened my phone. Showed screenshots of them at the resort during my graduation. Messages where they ignored me. Their texts demanding money. Their threats. Their history of favoritism. Their guilt-tripping. The officer's eyebrows shot up. He turned to my parents, expression turning firm. Sir, ma'am, none of this matches the report. Mom's tears stopped instantly. Dad's anger evaporated. The officer continued. I'm advising you to leave immediately and do not file false reports again. My parents looked humiliated, exposed, cornered. Mom hissed under her breath. I hope you're happy. I didn't flinch. For the first time, yes. They left without another word. The officer gave me a sympathetic look. If they harass you again, file a report. You don't deserve this. And with that, he left too. The moment I took my power back. That night, I sat on my couch, exhaustion pressing against my bones. For years, I convinced myself my parents loved me equally. That I was valued, seen, appreciated. But love isn't about DNA. It's about respect, effort, consistency, presence. They gave those things to Melanie, not to me. I decided that night something important. Blood may be family, but respect makes someone your parent. And they had failed at both. So I blocked them, unfriended them, removed them from my emergency contacts, and finally allowed myself to breathe. Lena hugged me when I told her everything. You didn't lose parents, she whispered. You lost illusions. It hurt. But it also healed. Slowly. Steadily. Powerfully. Melanie tried to text a week later asking for money. I deleted it. Dad tried emailing. I didn't open it. Mom tried calling from a different number. Silence was my answer. I chose myself. Finally. The ending they never saw coming. 1 month later, I got a job offer from a major tech firm. A huge salary. Benefits. A future. I accepted it. When I posted the news online, friends celebrated. Co-workers congratulated me. My parents? They saw the post through mutual relatives, and according to my cousin Harper, their faces went pale, just like at graduation, because they realized something too late. The daughter they abandoned became someone they could never control, never guilt, never manipulate, never use again. I didn't rise despite them. I rose without them. And that's just success. Success they could never claim credit for. Success they never helped to build. Success they never believed I'd achieve. I rebuilt myself. Not for them. Not to prove anything. But for me.